Hey, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be talking about learning. So there's a lot of amazing content out there about learning, a lot of videos about learning, and with this video, I aim to add onto that backload of content about learning. So learning to me is all about being able to recall or to remember all that you've learned at the right time, especially when you're writing tests, exams, and all of those, because those are like crucial times where you need to remember what you've studied or what you put into your brain. So, it, learning also applies to other settings besides school, because to learn any skill or to adapt to a challenge that maybe you had or to grow, basically, you need to learn from your mistakes or to learn from whatever feedback that you're getting and all that. So, with this video, I aim to let you know of the best ways to learn, let you know of the best techniques that I use to make my learning easier, make my learning more fun and effective, so that I can be able to remember stuff that maybe I learned even a year ago or 2 years ago, or without really having to reread the material that I used to learn those concepts. So many people have a misconception about learning, or they go about it the default way, or they do the things that feel fun, they use the techniques that feel fun, they feel easy and all that. But most of the techniques that people use to learn, or the techniques that people default to, are not really effective. Such strategies or such techniques include things like highlighting, note taking, and rereading. To me, those are inefficient ways to learn, or inefficient ways to study, especially for course content or school content or etc. So instead of doing those things, instead of carrying books to school, instead of taking notes and stuff like that, I mean, taking notes can be done the right way, but I doubt that everyone is doing it the way that it should be done. There's a book, I forgot the name of the book, I haven't read it, but there's a book about note taking which can help you to understand how to take notes and all that. I'm not saying it's completely rubbish, but if you're just doing it the way you think you're doing it without really reading books about it, you're probably doing it wrong. And it's not efficient. So yeah, this is just my opinion. So there's a lot of techniques that can be used, and there's this book called Make It Stick. There's the cover of the book. You can check it out. It's an amazing book about learning. It contains in it many strategies or many techniques that can be used to optimize learning and make learning more fun. I recommend that you check it and learn from it and use it to ace your exams, to learn anything in your life, learn any skill and all that. So the main thing that I use, or the main superior tool that I use to ace my exams or to remember content and all those things is the technique is called active recall. So with active recall, what you're basically doing is instead of memorizing, instead of putting in a lot of information into your brain, what you try to do is to put out information, because you learn more by putting out information rather than putting in information, so that it becomes easy for you to correct yourself. It becomes easy for you to learn from your mistakes and know the things that you don't know, because through active recall you become aware about the things that you know, you become aware about the things that you don't know, and you also become aware about the things that you don't know that you don't know. Which is very exciting. So when you try to put out information from your brain, you are basically opening yourself up for correction, and it makes it easy for the information to stick. An example I can give is you're maybe in a classroom, and then the teacher points to you, or the professor or the lecturer or whomever points to you and asks you a question, and you don't know the answer to that question. If they ask you the same question after 2 weeks, it'll be easy for you to know the answer to that question if the professor provided the answer after asking you, because it will stick with you, because you were challenged and you didn't know, and after being challenged you were given feedback about what the question or the answer to the question was all about. So it stuck with you, the answer stuck with you, unlike the other people who were in the class who weren't really challenged. So it becomes easy for them to even know the answer that was provided in their lecture. So with active recall, you aim to put yourself in such environments, or to put yourself in such states, because learning that's a bit hard or difficult or challenging, that's efficient. When you feel it's challenging, or when it feel it's hard, that's when you're truly learning, because learning shouldn't be fun, it shouldn't be easy. As I like to say, we learn more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. So the more you put yourself in such environments, the more you make mistakes, the more you become aware of your mistakes and all that. Don't let their official exam, don't let the official semester test or whatever be your first test. So go there after testing yourself multiple times, after writing multiple tests, after answering multiple questions based on the content that you have, so that it becomes easy for you to like know or piece together the information and know what works with what and what a certain thing does. For example, let's say you were doing embryology and then they asked you about the adaptations that the heart makes, like when the baby is born. So you have to know those things, like what's happening to the veins, the venous supply, the arterial supply, and all that, like how the heart changes its circulation or what, because while there's the baby is like in the womb or what, there's no like there is oxygen, there's like no atmosphere, like almost like the baby is like within a fluid, so they're not really making use of their lungs to breathe, if that makes sense, because they're getting their oxygen and carbon dioxide from the mother, so through the umbilical cord and all that. But when they go outside of to the natural environment where there's like the atmosphere and all that, now they have to switch from that, or like they have to make use of their lungs now. So you have to understand those things, how the arteries change, or what loses, what stays the same, what happens to whatever. So yeah, to know those things, you have to continuously task or test yourself to like pour out that information. Put yourself in a spot where you're really putting out information so that you can adjust or correct the things that you don't know, or even the things that you thought that you knew. That you get to find out a lot through this testing, because you realize that you don't know. Sometimes you realize that you don't know too much about a certain thing to the extent that you thought you did, which is helpful, because instead of reading the whole textbook before a test or before an exam, you'll just focus on the things that you didn't know before the test, which will save you a lot of time and energy. Because you wouldn't have to reread, you wouldn't have to do all the things that other students do. So through that, you'll become an A student, obviously. So this is also helpful to like learning new skills, let's say you're learning graphic designing and all that. It wouldn't be helpful for you to continuously revisit that same video or to revisit the same textbooks talking about the same concept when you want to design a new logo. Or you have to know these things by heart. Or like, at first, yeah, you work together with those things, but at some point, it comes a time where you have to recall, oh, this button does this, oh, this button does this, or this feature does this. So that you don't really have to revisit that study material or whatever. So the main point or the main aim of learning is to like remember the information, to be able to like reproduce it, or to make use of the information that you learned at the right time. So by testing yourself, you're making like your neurons like more stronger. You're strengthening the connections of the neurons so that it becomes easy for you to remember the information next time when you need it. Yeah. So I encourage you, instead of like highlighting, instead of note taking, instead of rereading material on all that, try to test yourself, try to spit out the information. Like after reading, maybe you were reading a fiction book or an non-fiction book, or things that are extracurricular, things that are outside of school, basically. Try to like ask yourself, after reading maybe a chapter, ask yourself, what was the chapter about? How can I use that information to do whatever? Like always use the two questions, the what and the how. So when you're reading maybe your course content, like always ask the what question, like what did I just read about? What is this that I'm reading about? What is embryology? How does it work? Or what are the components that make embryology up? Like what are the different phases of like from day one of fertilization till the end of like birth? What are the different things that happen? How do those things happen? And then why do those things happen? Or like the what, how, and why will save you from a lot of stress. So I aim you'll start doing those things and start asking yourself these questions. So these questions are very important, especially when you're reading maybe slides or you're reading a textbook, because you can make use of these questions to like have, let's say, an app that you use, or you can make use of your notebook, like to ask yourself questions. Instead of taking notes, ask yourself questions like, what is this? How does it work? Why do we need this? you understand. So that when you're preparing for an exam, you just ask yourself those questions, answer those questions, and if you find it difficult to answer a certain question, then you can go to the slide and just read about that thing that you got wrong. I hope that makes sense, and I hope you'll start implementing this. Have a beautiful day. Cheers.